free S-Rank selector with the release of version 2.0, and I'm sure you want to know what the best choice is for your account. So in today's video, guys, we'll be going over every single option that you can pick from, going over their pros, cons, and who you should be picking up for your account. So guys, let's go ahead and start off here at the bottom of the list on the character you should least likely pull, and that's going to be Miss Nekomata. Now, guys, here I have listed pros, cons, and the topic of the pros and cons, because some of these characters will have different categories I'm grading the pros and cons on, and we'll be noting that with a color coordinated whole thing. When you get there, you'll see it. Okay, you'll know what I mean when I get there. So starting off with Nekomata, guys, the only thing she really does is going to be DPS. So the pros here, guys, obviously great mobility. She can basically TP across the map. She can move very, very fast, and she can get from point A to point V very quickly. And there's not really much of having to like move or get into position much with her. So that is going to be really good, especially if you're looking for a DPS that's really easy to play. Now on top of this as well, for another pro, guys, we have a cheap EX special, meaning they're able to launch their EX special off really, really cheap. Now onto the cons and the reasons why I don't think you should pull her. Damage is absolutely fucking cooked. Yeah, it is down the drain horrendous. I think she is probably if one of the worst damage dealers in the game. And when I say this is like on par with fucking Billy. Next up here, guys, not many synergy. She doesn't really have anyone she can match up with really well in particular. Like, if we look at her team synergies, she has Austrial, Trigger, of course, and the all standard supports you can normally use, but it's really all these standard supports you would normally use. There's not, like, really any, like, best in slot or someone that's made for her to make her work really well, and for that reason, it is a con in my opinion. Also, there's already a better free-to-play DPS in the game, and that is going to be the queen of physical, that being Piper. I think that she is, bar none, the best physical DPS in the game. I do think she's the best free-to-play DPS in the game already. Build guide on the channel on her out already, so if you want to build Piper up, then go check that video out. And then on to the final con, guys, is she has no help outside the team, and she's not really a sub DPS. So that is a huge detractor, and especially with how much damage she already does, or the lack thereof, this does not help her out in the slightest, because you're not going to use her as a main DPS, so if you can't use her as a sub DPS, then she's really pointless to have. Anyways, guys, that's all I'm touching on Miss Nekomata. Now, on to number 5, which is going to be Miss Gracie Gru. Now, I think Grace can potentially go up or down this list, depending on the use case for her, and we'll talk about those use case here in a second. I genuinely think she could jump up at least one higher in the ranking, if it is the case. And this right here is the color coordination I was telling you guys about. She's an anomaly DPS and a disorder DPS, and we'll list the pros and cons for both of these different archetypes. First of all, guys, anomaly DPS, she's very mobile. That means she can get around the field very fast. You can use your attacks on the move as well, so this means you're able to dodge enemies much more effectively. On top of this, guys, her EX special is very, very cheap. On top of this EX special being very, very cheap, this means that her frequency of anomaly procs is going to be a lot higher, because you can activate this much more frequently. And then the final pro I have for her, guys, is most of her damage is coming from shock. That means the more often you can proc her anomaly off, the more shock damage you can do. This shock is DOT, meaning you can swap off of her. While that shock is still up on the enemy, you'll be doing constant damage to the enemy over time. Onto our cons real quick. I accidentally copy and pasted two of the things here, but shock damage is kind of meh. Like, the shock damage is not the best thing in the world. While yes, it's cool that you can use this, the shock damage overall is not the best thing in the world. And then finally, the timer before you can apply shock. This means there is a timer with the amount of time it takes for the shock to run out, because it is damage over time, so you're waiting for that timer to run down, and then you can reproc shock. Most of her damage comes from those shock procs, so her damage can become kind of inconsistent, especially if you're having to wait on that timer for every single shock proc. Now on to the disorder DPS pros and cons. First of all, pro, frequent and consistent shock procs. This is going to be really good for any disorder team, because you can swap into her, shock proc, switch over to your other character, disorder, and then rinse and repeat, and the timer does not become that much of an issue. Now, the cons with this, rotating can be confusing, because depending on the team you have her on, the rotations can change, because if you have her on a Yanagi team per se, then you're swapping off of her a lot more frequently, versus if you're running her on a disorder team with like a Vivian, right? Your Vivian's going to do most of the legwork while she's off the field, so the rotations are going to be a lot less frequent, because you're going to be using her EX special to make sure blooms are going off, and you kind of want to swap into Vivian sometimes and get those stacks back up, so that's why I say rotations can be confusing here. And then finally, guys, nothing to help the team and not a sub DPS. Now, why I say she's not a sub DPS in a sense is she is here for the purpose of proccing disorders off. Like, her sub DPS capabilities, I think, completely rely in the fact that she's able to hit really big anomaly procs off. This is why I said she's not really a main DPS before, and she's kind of a sub DPS. Like, she's a sub DPS in the sense that she helps disorder teams out, but she's not a sub DPS in terms of anomaly. I feel like on anomaly teams she's kind of washed. But overall, guys, that's why I said that she can move up or down this list. It really depends on who you have in your account already. If you have Yanagi and if you have Vivian on your account, I think she becomes a lot more viable for your account. But just as a baseline for who you should pick, I think that she is number 5 on this list. list here. Hopping in number 4 here, guys. Oh, Miss Soldier 76. And I'm sure you don't see much on here because her main thing is DPS, and she's a very bland character. First of all, the pros, though. Core, passive, and additional ability just give a lot of free damage to her. So that's cool, right? But on the con end of that, timing is required to get maximum damage output. So if you're not very technically skilled at the game and not good at timing, then you do lose DPS with her. So do keep that in mind when you're planning to pick this character, right? And then on top of this as well, guys, there's not really any buffs to her own damage outside of the free stats she's giving here. And what I mean by this is she doesn't act as a sub DPS. She doesn't offer anything else for the rest of the team. And she doesn't really offer that big of buffs to herself to really make her work in future metas. That's why she is currently listed right here at tier 2. I think that she should probably be in here in tier 3 in my opinion. But overall, I feel like she is just kind of a boring character. And that's why I kind of have her in the mid slot. Like, she works when she works, but she's not like the best thing in the world either. She's a pretty mid character. Hopping into number 3 now, guys, which is going to be Miss Koleda. Now, Koleda I like a lot because she offers buffs and stuns. Starting off with the stuns category first, guys. She has great bursty stuns. This means she gets in and off the field. There's not very much on-field time with her. Her whole thing is literally pop onto the field, use your enhanced basic attacks, use your skill attack, and then get off the field whenever that's all done, right? But I will say with this, she is on the slower end of that animation scale when compared to the other stun burst type breakers or stunners that you have on your account. So do keep that in mind. Now, we have a pro and con with this one. Ben Biggerton buff. Yo, Ben Biggerton helps out so much. And honestly, it's a really big buff to what she's able to do. But Ben Biggerton, hey, yo, who the fuck's using Ben Biggerton on their team? So, pro and con, you can use them. But I wouldn't recommend using it. He's kind of ass. Now on to the next thing here. Iframes, guys. Yes, she has iframes, meaning she cannot be hit. She cannot be stunned out of animations, which makes it really good and really consistent for doing your burst and getting the fuck off the field, because the more time that she is stunned and like staggered, the more time that she has to be on the field to use her full burst and everything like that, and you want her to be off the field as quickly as possible. So definitely a pro in my opinion. Now on to the final con here with the stun category, non-enhanced basic attacks. So this means if you're not using current enhanced basic attacks, her fucking stun capability is out the window. So you really want to make sure or ensure that you're having her enhanced basic attacks up practically at all times, because if you don't have it up, you're kind of cooked with the stun capability. Like, her stun dropped off the fucking map if you don't have it. Now on to the buffs, guys, and these buffs relate to each other. First of all, chain attack damage increase. She increases the amount of chain attack damage you can do. So this is really good if you have chain attack characters like Evelyn, or even the new girlie coming to the game, Miss Yixuan, right? So, hey, if you're planning on pulling her, Koleda could be a good pickup. If you have Evelyn, she's a great pickup for Evelyn. If you don't have chain DPS, then this matters not at all to you. This literally fucking does nothing for you. Okay, now on to number 2 of this list, guys. Who would have thought? Miss Rina Bobina. The reason why I like Rina so much, guys, is because she gives a huge penetration increase. And maybe you think you're going to penetrate her. No, she is going to be penetrating you with both of her dollies, and she'll be penetrating the enemy as well. Now, you can find that on R34/ZZZ, okay, gamers? So this will definitely be giving the team a nice increase of the damage they're able to do. Secondly, very easy to play. You use her little thingies, they come up, and then they do their job, and then you get off the field. Like, it doesn't require much skill to actually play her. Not to say there's no timing, because we'll get into that in a second here. Next up on the list here, guys, increase shock duration and shock. So meaning if you have a shock character in her team, she increases the duration of that, so more DOT over time, and the amount of damage you're going to be doing with that shock. So teams like Yanagi and Grace, she'll work great on that team. Now onto the con. She does require a lot of maintenance unless you have her M1, which reduces that maintenance by a little bit because it increases the amount of time her buffs are active for. But her buffs really aren't active for that long of a period of time, so you really have to make sure you're maintaining those buffs quite a bit. If you forget, then you do lose those buffs, which is kind of a pain in the ass at sometimes. Not to say that it makes her hard to play, you just have to play her more often than you normally would with some of the other support characters in the game. Next up con here, guys, no shot characters, meaning this right here will not matter at all if you don't have good shot characters built in your account. If we take a look at the current shot characters we have in the game right now, those are going to be characters like Silver Soldier Ambi, Grace, Harumasa, and Yanagi. So if you don't have any of those characters in your account, you're cooked on that front, I fear. And then the final thing here, guys, is Pin is a little bit better than attack, but not as good as damage percentage. So Pin is definitely better than attack in my opinion, but like, it's not as good as a damage percentage buff. This means her future-proof ability does decrease a bit for me because Pin is a lighter type of buff you're adding to your allies, and it provides less damage output than something like a damage percent bonus would do. Now, maybe she gets a buff in the future that changes this, but as of right now, this is definitely a lot less future-proofable than having something like a damage percentage bonus, because you really don't want as Pin as much as you want damage percentage, and seeing the new buffers we have added to the game, you're getting a lot more of that. So do keep that in mind when picking for Rina. Now, on to the final option, the best option in the game, in my opinion. Mr. Von Lyacon. line. Yippee, 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 the dog man, the furry, yeah, we love him. So I have divided him both into two categories as well. So let's start with stun first, guys. He provides massive unconditional days. This means it does not matter if you have energy up. It does not matter if you're using basic attacks. Like, he provides good days all around the board, which and super good if you're a very casual player that doesn't like do combos too much and doesn't play the game too technically with like swapping and like mid-maxing everything. He is really good just for dazing and stunning the enemy. On to the cons with this though, guys. It does take away from your DPS because he is on the field a lot more. And looking at some of our other stun characters we have in the game right now, a lot of these characters now are either A, bursty, or B, off field. Koleda, very bursty. Lighter, very bursty. Pulcra, off field. Chingy is on field, and then Trigger is very off field as well. So we really only have one competition for him, and that being Chingy, and he does provide pretty decent stunning for what he can do, but overall, it does take away from your DPS's damage. Now onto the final con with stunning. You need combos to maximize stun, so you have to hold down attacks sometimes, and you do need to have some comboing to maximize the stun you're doing, because the more you can maximize the days and stun he's doing, the less he has to be on the field, which overall increases your damage output for your main DPS. Now onto the buffs, guys. First of all, increase stun multiplier. This means whenever you stun the enemy, that multiplier gets increased. You're doing more damage to stun enemies, which is an overall buff for every single character on your account. But adjacent to that, guys, he also is going to be giving an increase of damage to ice characters, or really, he's reducing the resistance of ice damage to enemies. So not really a buff in the sense, but you get what I mean there, right? Now, this obviously does not matter at all if you don't have ice characters. Let's take a look at the ice characters we currently have in the game. So if you don't have characters like Hugo Vlad, Ellen Joe, or Miyabi, this does not matter to you. So, hey, take that for what you will. If you don't have these characters, that buff does not matter at all. But I do think, bar none, he is the best to pick up for your account. Just because I do think that he provides the best level of stun, you're going to see a lot more likelihood and a lot more reliance on stun characters in the future with characters coming out, especially with the buffs of someone like Ellen Joe coming to the game. Probably a rerun of Miyabi coming very soon. He works out with both those characters very nicely. But that's going to do it for today's video, guys. Tell me what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. Who are you picking for your 5-star selector? I've showed you my list today, so tell me what your thoughts are in the comment section, guys. Anyways, that's gonna do it for today's video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Maybe leave a like on the video, and that's gonna do it for me, guys. Later. Bye-bye.